What is up, everybody? We are back with a brand new episode of the Silver Lions Playbook podcast, and I am back with my co-host Thomas Urich.
What's good, guys?
And today we have some huge stuff going on in the NFL. This might be the craziest offseason in NFL history, so we had to come
Yep.
together and do an emergency podcast because normally we do them on Saturdays, and we said, oh, we got to make this one happen today. So that
Yep.
we can talk about the stuff that's been going on these last couple days because this stuff is wild. Before we get into that, we'll talk about a few things that the Detroit Lions have done so far in free agency, and let's talk about some re-signings to begin with. Um, and Charles Harris is the one that I will start with. Um, Charles Harris last year was a guy that we signed to a smaller deal, 1 year deal, prove it deal type to play, outside linebacker for us in our 3-4 scheme. And he ended up playing really well. I believe he had 7 or 7.5 sacks this year. And that was not even playing a huge percentage of snaps because he was playing a lot, but we did have Trey Flowers and Romeo Aquara playing his position last year. So he was, kind of fighting for snaps in a way with those two guys. And as we saw, we traded away cut Trey Flowers. Not traded. I wish we traded him. But we cut Trey Flowers. And I think that really helps Charles Harris because then he's going to get more snaps and he'll have more production. But we signed him to, I believe it was a 2-year, $14 million deal. So he gets $7 million per year. So basically $1 million per sack that he
I
had
thought it was
last year.
210.
It
It
was
was
210.
214. I
Oh,
thought it was
okay.
210,
We'll see.
but it might be
I'll look it up.
214.
I'll look that up because I'm not 100%, so I'll clarify that. But either way, Charles Harris, I love the deal. And I love it even better if it was 2 for 10 because that's 5 million per for a guy that I think kind of could have got 7.
I
But
mean, it's just $2 million in savings. It's
yeah,
not that big.
yeah, it's not a lot, but when it comes down to it, that's another player.
Yeah.
So it was actually 2 years, 13. So
Okay.
we were both,
Kind of right in the middle.
yeah, got it right there. But I like the signing and I like keeping guys in house that proved it last year. We signed a lot of guys last year on deals that were, like I said, 1 year prove it deals for guys that hadn't necessarily broken out yet. Guys that, like
Yeah.
Charles Harris, he was a first round pick. He needs to get some snaps in a good scheme uh a good culture like Detroit is now to, really get his to get to his full potential pretty much.
Yeah.
And the next one we got was we signed wide receiver Josh Reynolds to an extension. And I believe this one was a 2-year, $12 million deal, but
Mhm.
it's really, I think it's like a 2-year, $6 million ish in guarantees. So I mean, he gets 2.5 million year one, in guarantees and against the cap. So he's only, accounting for 2.5 million against the cap. And then year two, I think it's about the same in guarantees. So that's a really good deal for us as well. And that's a guy that came on
Mhm.
late. And with Jared Goff, I mean, he played with him in LA. So that's a great thing to,
Yep.
keep that continuancy going throughout his career because he's a guy that, came on. And I think a lot of people attribute, Jared Goff's success at the end of the season to Josh Reynolds, being added to the roster because that was right around the same time Jared Goff started really, turning it up and making some stuff happen. So I
Yeah.
really like that signing as well. And that was another guy that was productive, kind of like a prove it. We got him on waivers, so it was a little different than the Charles Harris situation, but I like it in the same aspect that it's a low money deal for a guy that could potentially be, I mean, Charles Harris could lead our team in sacks and Josh Reynolds could, I don't know, potentially lead our team in receiving yards. I could see that depending on what we do in the draft. Cause I mean, if we draft another one too, then we got some guys fighting for spots. So, with the next guy that we signed, or actually we'll start with re-signings. We'll keep going with the re-signings. But speaking of re-signings, Tracy Walker was probably my favorite one out of all of these. Tracy Walker, his deal was, a little bit more than both of these guys. He got about 8.3 per. but I still like it. I mean, he's right around 18th ranked safety in terms of money, so I like that deal.
Yeah, I like it. And then we have Alex Anzalone, right? He
Yep,
resigns.
Alex Anzalone resigned as well.
And then Khalif Raymond.
Khalif Raymond resigned as well, and he resigned a 2-year deal, which was nice as well. And we resigned Evan Brown to a 1-year deal. There was a lot of exclusive rights free agents that we resigned as well.
Yeah.
Jack Fox, probably the biggest one out of all of them. And then in terms of re-signings, I think that's it. Or no, we re-signed Tim Boyle and David Blau as well. And people are pretty mad about these. Personally, I don't love it. Like it to me says, okay, we're just cool with the quarterbacks we had last year. We're kind of staying the same in that. We're gonna keep Jared Goff. Most likely, we got Tim Boyle, we got David Blau. I just don't love giving, the guaranteed 2 million, or I'm sorry, we guaranteed 1.5 million to Tim Boyle, and we're giving him 2.5 million. I just don't love the money. For me, I just don't think he's a legit backup to me. I think he's like a third string guy. And like a low end backup, in my opinion.
And like, I agree there. The Boyer and Blau signings, like the more I think about it, the less problem I have with it. Just because, like, I think the Lions are probably going to draft a quarterback at some point in this draft, and so to me, it really just looks like a competition for the third spot, which both of those guys are developmental quarterbacks anyway, so I assume that Boy will win that job just because of the guarantee. But it's not like a bad option for like your third string quarterback. And like if it is going to be your second string quarterback, then it's pretty that Jared Goff doesn't get hurt. But
my problem with it really, other than the Tim Boyle thing, was they showed that they don't believe in David Blau last year. They proved that in literally not letting him play. Like they did everything they could do to not put this guy in the game. And if that's the case, why keep him? I guess he's a good locker room guy, but I just don't know.
Yeah, he there's a lot of like third string quarterbacks that are really tight with like the starting quarterback or kind of know the playbook super well. So they like can help the offensive system, especially since you guys have a new offensive coordinator. That might be something that's good. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why like a third string quarterback would be resigned, even though it doesn't play.
Right. And I mean, like I said, I don't hate them, and they're two signings you don't really weigh too heavily anyway, because it's not a lot of money and it's not a position that matters too much, especially on a team that's not playoff bound. If you were a playoff bound Super Bowl team, you'd be like, okay, we need to get a good backup just in case our starter goes down. But moving on to guys that we've just straight up signed in the free agent market, we'll start with a defender in Mike Hughes, the corner from Kansas City. I personally love the signing. He was a former first round pick. It's a lot like the Charles Harris signing. We got him for 1 year, $3.5 million. He can play corner or outside and slot. He was productive last year in Kansas City, was a top 10 cover corner per Pro Football Focus. And like I said before, I don't put too much into that, but it's nice to see, that a guy's getting ranked highly on something like that with a deal so low as what we gave him. And he's a guy that, like I said, is a former first round pick. He's gotten a couple of chances, but I believe he was picked by Minnesota the first time, correct? And then he was traded to Kansas City.
Yeah, so he got drafted to Minnesota. I think he had a pretty decent rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Then he like fell off completely.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota needed to upgrade the cornerback spot, so he traded him to Kansas City.
Yeah.
And he rebounded quite bad.
He's only 25 too, so it's a 1 year signing. We already have Okudah and Omani, so if he's not the greatest corner ever, it's not like it's a big deal because we only gave him a little bit of money and we already have a couple good corners. I mean,
1 for 3, right?
Yeah, 1 for 3.5, I believe. Which either way, I mean, it's a pretty good deal.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, for us. And then another one on the defensive side is linebacker Chris Board, which a lot of people are like, who? And this is a guy that played a
He's
lot
a
of, huh?
he's a fast special teamers from Baltimore, right?
Yeah, yep. He and he's not just a special teamer. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
think in around the league, or well, not around the league necessarily, but rumors are that the Lions believe he will come in and possibly be their starting inside linebacker. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know necessarily how good he is because he played limited snaps actually at the linebacker position. He's more of like a special teamer, like
Yeah.
you said. But when he did play, he played okay. He's only 26. He's solidly, he's an athlete. I feel like we could coach him up and he could play pretty well. But I also think we'll draft somebody too to play that inside linebacker spot because really right now we got Derek Barnes, Anzalone, and Chris Board. And I would like to add another
And
solid player.
the rumors are that he's gonna play inside.
I mean, yeah, because what what we're gonna run, we have the like we talked about before, it's a 4-2-5.
Go to yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna probably play that inside linebacker, one of those inside linebacker positions.
I mean, that makes sense. The only issue that I have is that he's relatively like fast, and so I would think that like a edge rusher outside linebacker type role would probably be more bound for sure. It's something like Kyle Van Noy, where
Right.
it's like kind of pseudo middle linebacker, but like
And that could be too. He could do a
I
little bit of
like
both.
don't hate it honestly.
Yeah. And we don't know the numbers on that yet.
Yeah.
And then the last, but probably the biggest signing, in my opinion, of this free agency for the Lions, wide receiver DJ Shark. We signed him to a 1-year, $10 million deal. But I'll tell you what, I follow him on Instagram, and with all the stuff he posts constantly on his story, I think he'll be in Detroit for a long time. He just seems like the type of player that will re-sign here for like a 3-year, 35 or $40 million deal or something like that. He'll get 12, 15 per, but he'll be a very, very good player for us. He's relatively young. He's 6'4". He runs a 4.4, 4.3.
Yep.
I feel like it's exactly what we were wanting. I mean, he's 25 years old, and like I said, he's 6'4", runs a 4.3, 4.4 ish, somewhere in there. And he has the big play threat, the deep passing threat, but he also has the big body that we needed with Amon-Ra St. Brown and I guess TJ Hawkinson's our big body too, but at receiver, we really needed that big guy.
Right. One of the major like concerns I had with the Lions wide receiver core was that like a lot of them are predominantly slot wide receivers,
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier in the pods. But DJ Shark is not. He's a 6'4" kind of get up and catch it kind of guy. So
Yeah.
I really like the deer. I think that like I had him over Allen Robinson on my wide receiver free agency board. So I think it was a really good get for the Lions as long as he stays. I also think that like he's primed for a breakout. So I really like it for the Lions for what they got.
And I think too, this kind of signals we're giving Goff a chance, because if we were going for a rookie, in my opinion, we would have really pushed to sign him to a longer deal so that we could make sure we, kept the continuancy with that rookie quarterback coming in. But this to me says, all right, Goff, we're giving you a real receiver, even though it's only for 1 year, which they'll try to resign him. But we're giving you a real receiver, a burner, a big guy that you can actually use as a wide receiver one, even if he's not a legit wide receiver one yet. And then you get Amon-Ra St. Brown and probably a rookie as well. And of course, Khalif Raymond, who they re-signed to. So they're really saying, all right, Goff, we need to see something out of you that shows us that you're our guy. I think personally, Jared Goff is either going to blow up this year in terms of like blow up our expectations out of the water and succeed, be like a top 10, top 15 quarterback, or he's not going to be very good and he's going to get traded after the season, because I just don't see Detroit saying he's okay, we'll keep going with him. I think he needs to show he's a real franchise QB.
I agree. I think that I don't know if he can play top 10, top 15 quarterback
He did
wise, but
before,
that's debatable. But
at least
um
statistically.
yeah. He I think that this year is kind of a prime year for the Lions to draft a quarterback, just because I don't know how good they're going to be next year.
Yeah.
And so if you can get a Malik Willis, or you can get one of the top quarterbacks at 232, I think that you should go for it. But yeah, it gives a shot for golf fans. That's really good.
Yeah.
Um, I really like the sustainability that the Lions have given the wide receiver frame. I really like the Raymond Deer. I'm on St. Brown. If he continues to do well, I think that's gonna be a really good draft pick. DC Shark, I really like your wide receiver chorus.
Mm-hmm.
You guys add a rookie, that's awesome.
Agreed.
But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I really think the Lions front office is doing, pretty much exactly what they should have done coming in. They got one of the top tier receivers, even though it's on a 1-year deal. They did that. They re-signed the guys that they needed to. The only thing that they really didn't do that I really, really wish they did was sign one of these better linebackers, but we just didn't have the money. I mean, after we made these couple moves and signed, Mike Hughes and Shark and a couple depth guys, we just don't have the extra money to go out and spend 7-8 million on an inside linebacker right now. So I think they'll draft one a little later, kind of like a Derek Barnes situation, and see what happens there. But next, or last but not least, for the Lions part of this podcast, we're going to talk about the draft a little bit. And like you mentioned before, Malik Willis at 2 is a very real possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily right now. I think signs are pointing to that being actually a possibility. I think the last couple of weeks I was like, oh, it's a smoke screen. It's a smoke screen. Now I'm really starting to think, okay, there's some truth to this. I don't think they have decided, of course, but I think he's an option currently for the Lions.
Yeah, and I think it's a real option, like you mentioned. I think that we oftentimes as fans and as we go on Twitter and everything, the media kind of blows up every quarterback pro day.
Mhm.
But yeah, one heck of a pro day the other day.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to leave a lot of teams interested. And as we saw with the 49ers last year, they instantly made that trade after Trey Lance's pro day. So
Yeah.
anything could happen. And if the Lions really like Malik Willis and they really want that top tier draft bill quarterback, I think this year's the year to get it, because I think they're probably gonna be too good next year to get one of the top guys.
Yeah. And I mean, as a Lions fan, I love that, because this means we're in a prime position to trade down. And even if we don't, okay, think about this. So let's say somebody trades up to number 1 to get Malik Willis, right? And then the Jaguars move down. Then we get Aiden. I mean, either way, we're going to get Aiden Hutchinson, or we have the very real possibility to move down with this Malik Willis.
I think that you guys are going to get Aiden anyway.
I'm not so sure. I feel like the Jaguars, for what I feel currently, I feel like they're going to go with Aiden, just because they did a lot of work for that offensive line, and I think now they're going to put a lot more draft capital into the defense.
Oh, that's right, they did, didn't they? No, that makes sense. I forgot who the Jaguars signed the first week of free agency.
They got Brandon Scherf. I mean, he's not a tackle, of course, so that
he's a guard.
Yeah, so that wouldn't necessarily, go into the draft. But they did franchise tag Cam Robinson, who did play left tackle for him. So I do think they're going to move forward with him at left. and then maybe they'll try to get a right tackle later, like, their first, second round pick or something. I could see that going, but I think they'll try to go with the best edge player at number 1.
I could say that. Pre-free agency, I kept hearing Ikem Anuranu. I don't know how
Yeah,
to pronounce his name
I
from NC
Ikem
State.
Okwenu, I think. They
Yeah,
call him Icky. That's all I know.
yeah. From North Carolina
Mhm.
State, yeah.
Yep,
NC
I
Wolfpack.
believe so.
Um, and so like that was the target that I had for them, but
Yeah,
I totally forgot that they finished his tag third left tackle. So
right.
that possibly might be something that's not playing.
And I think
Good call.
even with that being said, um, even if they do get Aiden and nobody wants to give us enough to trade up, I think Kyle Hamilton would be a sufficient selection at number 2 in this
See,
draft.
I don't love that. And the only reason why I don't love that is because like safeties are not a premium position.
See, and
So
okay, I know that sort of, but I think you can make exceptions for guys like Kyle Hamilton,
I
especially in a
think so
draft like
too.
this.
I think so too, because like Kyle Hamilton is similar to like the Isaiah Simmons role where he can play safety and linebacker if needed to,
Mm-hmm.
which is like great. He has the range to play safety, so he'll probably take in that position. But um, I don't know. I feel like if you guys wanted him, a trade down it would also probably be a best because I don't think that like many teams are gonna trade up for Kyle Hamilton, you know?
Yeah. I don't necessarily think anybody would trade up for him. I think what would happen though, honestly, if let's say Aiden goes 1 and then we go if we're not going with Malik Willis, we go Kayvon at 2, right?
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton's going at 3.
Is he?
So I think so. So even if we trade down from 2 to like 4, so let's say they move up to get Evan Neal, I just think the Texans are gonna go with Kyle Hamilton unless they love Malik Willis, which is possible because they did just trade away Deshaun Watson. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I love what the Lions are doing just because like they can go in this draft multiple ways. If they want
yeah,
Thibodeau, they can get Thibodeau. If they want Hutchinson, they probably potentially could get Hutchinson depending on what Jaguars want.
yeah,
Um, and if they want Hampton or Willis, they can do it. So like it's multiple
yeah.
different options, and I think that's really good for a team that's in a move rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. And as a Lions fan, I'm very excited to see what happens in this draft because our free agency is basically over. I could see us
Yep.
drafting or signing a few, lower end like depth players, but it's pretty much the end of that here. So moving on, let's get into Tom Brady returning. Victory lap, you called it. I said it wouldn't happen. I don't see how it happened, and honestly, I'm kind of over it. I'm gonna keep it real. I don't want to talk about it too much. I'm kind of over Tom Brady as a whole, and I kind of am just ready to move on. This
Yeah.
all feels like a publicity stunt, like he knew he was gonna play the whole time and just decided, I'm gonna retire. I'm not gonna retire. I'm gonna retire. I'm not gonna retire. It feels like Aaron Rodgers. Like, okay, little bit of a tangent. It's like the same thing Aaron Rodgers is doing, besides the fact that it's Tom Brady, so nobody's calling him out on it. He just kept his name in the news cycle for the last 4 months.
I think that the Buccaneers were kind of forcing him to retire a little bit, and he didn't necessarily want to retire. And so,
I,
um,
why would
yeah,
they force him to retire?
I
That
don't
makes
know.
no sense.
I don't know. Um, maybe to I don't know. That
Because
there's
they
like
don't
really
even
no.
because they don't even
Yeah,
have draft capital to get a new one. Like they're
right.
old team, so it's like, well, you might as well get as many years out of Brady as you can, I'd think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. That's like just some rumor that like I heard earlier
Mm-hmm.
in the process, but
Right.
it doesn't really make any sense, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like. Yeah, I don't know. Tom
I don't
Brady's
know
back.
about.
That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
Tom Brady's back. Fuck it. I guess we're
Yeah,
well, yay. Woo. All right. Anyway,
I like it.
in bigger news, Deshaun Watson is a Cleveland Brown. Excuse me.
I had
You
this all
said
along.
you
Thank you.
said he was going to be a Brown the whole time. I disagreed. I was right up until the last second. So this is for you. And your freaking orange shirt that's almost Brown's colors. I hate you for it. Anyway,
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson went to the Cleveland Browns. I still cannot believe it. It's wild to me. But the Browns screwed this up all the way. I think this is the worst thing they could have done, because if you think about it this way, they were right. So they were a top 3 team coming in, and
Yep.
then they were out. It was reported that they were out of the contest for Watson. But go ahead.
Which to me was the biggest like surprise of the offseason.
I
I
think it was a
was
big surprise, but I wasn't like super, because I was like, okay, he'll probably go to, New Orleans, Carolina, something like that.
so the thing with New Orleans that like really shocked me, and I don't know why the media kept pushing them, was that like New Orleans didn't really have any opportunity to get him
Yeah.
without treating Taysom Hill or killing themselves next year. And they ended up killing themselves next year with pushing a lot of contracts back a year. And so like I don't really New Orleans was definitely not on my radar. But it
Yeah.
was on everyone else's. So like
Well, see, that's the thing is, okay, so like I was saying, it's the whole situation was weird because it started off New Orleans and Carolina were the top 2, right?
yeah,
This cycle of it, because last cycle it was the Eagles in Carolina. But this time it was New Orleans and Carolina. And then we
yeah,
started hearing other, Browns, Giants maybe, and then you started hearing a couple other teams. And then the Falcons came on late too. That was a team that came out of nowhere that nobody really saw until like
yeah,
I think it was 3 days before he was traded, or 2
yeah.
days before that the Falcons were actually mentioned. So for me, it's like, oh, here's my point. Here's my point. The Browns screwed this up the worst way that they possibly could have, because they came in, they were third, right? The
Yeah.
rumors got out that they wanted Watson. They didn't tell Baker that they wanted Watson. They just let him find out. And then on top of that, the whole we want an adult at the position stuff came out. And then they were out on Watson. So they screwed themselves in that because they didn't give up enough to get Watson in the first place. And then now they thought they could lean on Baker for the year and say, okay, we didn't get Watson. Now Baker won't play for him because the things that they said and the fact that they tried to get Watson. So now then not only that, they had to give up way more to get Watson than they wanted to. So,
Yeah.
and now they have a disgruntled backup quarterback that nobody else wants because they know they have to cut him. They're not going to keep him. You know what I mean? If you're a team like Seattle who knows that Baker wants to go there, Baker wants Seattle. It has been reported that Baker wants Seattle. If you're a team like Seattle, why do you give up anything to get Baker when you know for sure, almost for sure, he's coming to your team if he hits the open market? And you're really the only team that needs a quarterback that would give up anything that they would want for Baker anyway. So they kind of screwed
I,
themselves in every way.
no, I agree. I mean, like, so I think it's just like a situation that has followed Baker for his entire football career, that he's immature and
I'm not going to blame
so,
Baker for this. I'm not. I just won't.
but like I get it. And like I don't think the Browns handled it well.
They handled it shitty. It was shitty.
Yeah,
They did bad.
I agree. I'm not gonna like sit here and say that Cleveland handled this perfectly. They didn't.
Right, right.
But I mean they wanted an upgrade and
Yeah.
they got one. They should have told Baker that they were looking for an upgrade. That's my disagreement there with what they did. But like Baker needs to know that this is a business and that this stuff is
Right.
gonna happen, and that like
Right.
even if the um Browns, you know, have Watson. Watson's probably not going to play because of a potential suspension.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't see the point of Baker complaining when he's on his team. He's going to get starting minutes potentially, and
Right.
then and
Because
then
he's been
lowering his
disrespected. Like, this is the thing. He's been so disrespected in Cleveland. Like, I'm thinking if I was Baker, I would never, ever, ever play there again. You could not catch me on that field. I wouldn't even play there if I was the away team. Like, if I'm Seattle and we got to play in Cleveland, I'm not even going, bro. No, not literally,
wait.
but it's just like, no, I can't. Like, this is my thing too. It's like, yeah, it's a business. So Baker has all the right to go, I'm not playing. Like, I'm just not. You know what I mean?
But
He
like
wants to go
my thing
somewhere
is that
else.
he's been disrespected all of his life. Like this
Right.
stuff has followed him through college, through the NFL, probably in pre-college. So like he's always been kind of known to be like the immature kind of guy who parties all the time. Whether that's true or not, like that's debatable, but I don't know, like I don't remember if you seen the Colin Cowherd interview they had with when Baker was in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Well, Baker basically like walked off on Colin Cowherd because Colin was like disrespecting him. So I don't know. I think that Baker probably needs to be a little less sensitive and know that this is a business and know that by staying with Cleveland for a year, probably gets him what he wants next year.
This is all I'm gonna say. I see why, or I see why you're a Patriots fan now. I get it. That's how you think. You think like the Patriots. It's all
Yeah.
like team. I don't give a shit about no player. And that's the thing. That's the problem is today's NFL is all about the players because the NBA is all about the players. Almost
Yeah.
all of these big sports companies are about the players. So the NFL is starting to be that way. And that's why we see all these trades and all these guys demanding trades now. And more, players having more power because in reality they have the power because they are the ones on the field making that money. So
No, and like I agree with that. Like I'm happy for Devontae Adams that he got what he want. I don't know if it's exactly what I would have picked. I think that I really like winning, and that's
I
not what the
yeah.
NFL is about anymore. As
They
we see with
are,
like,
and they always have been. It's always been this way. This is the reason why Tom Brady's the GOAT. Remember this. Tom Brady is the GOAT because he took pay cuts.
yeah,
That's really, I mean,
really,
he's the GOAT because he's Tom Brady, but he's the GOAT because he decided, look, I don't need an extra $5 million a year. I don't need the ego boost. He
except for
didn't
last
care.
year.
Well, yeah, except for last year, because he was like, I
Except for
need that
last year.
money now. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like, but that's what I'm saying. Is like when he was doing that dynasty, the reason the Patriots were a dynasty is because they could save an extra $5 to $10 million a year on an elite quarterback by having Tom Brady. They got lucky by
yeah,
drafting the right guy mentally as well. Um,
yeah,
and that's another thing is like, yes, you could say a lot of these guys are greedy. Sure. Personally, if I was an NFL player, probably, my first couple of years, I wouldn't be that type of guy that's like, oh, I need to get paid as much as I possibly can. I'd just be happy that I'm here. But after a couple of years of doing it, you start to, it's a job. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're just playing football anymore. It's a year-round job and you have to do everything the right way. So when you're a rookie, you get a 4-deal, 5-year deal. You're only making this much money. That's as much as you can make. If you've been overperforming that the whole time, you're probably going to go, all right, I need my money because you're not even thinking about winning. You're not thinking about the other players. You're thinking about, look at what I've done for this team. I need to get paid for it. So I think that's really what it is it's not necessarily that these guys don't want to win as much. It's more these guys are just like thinking about it like it's a business. Like you say, this is a business. You got to remember that it's a business. Like these people, they want to get their money, you know?
yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm just like thinking about like what I would do if this was like not like an NFL situation. Like
Right.
I'm a teacher, right? So like
Right.
if I sign for one school, if I sign a contract and they're like, okay, they would never do this because what school would do this, but if they tell me a non-compete clause, then like 1 or 2 years after into my contract, I can't say, oh, you know what? School B is gonna pay me 10 times amount. I'm going to quit on you guys and void this contract that I signed to join that school. Like I can't do that. So
Right.
like why are NFL players
Because
able to do
they have the real power. Because I hate to say this, but me and you are not valued when it comes down to the workplace.
sure.
They do not value us very much because we don't bring in that much money. Whereas these guys, Devontae Adams or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, these are guys that are bringing in your team millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. So they know, like, the most you can do is fine them and not pay them what they're owed that year. That's
Sure.
really as far as it goes. And then after that, it's kind of like, all right, we got to get rid of him. But they knew, he's on a franchise tag. He wasn't going to play. We're just going to get what we can for him. A lot of the times the teams will push a little bit harder. Like with Tyreek Hill, we saw the team kind of just say, whatever, man, if you don't want to be here, we're not going to try to keep you. And they got a
Yeah.
haul for him, though. They got a lot
Yeah.
more than what Devontae Adams got. And I mean, that's the reason behind it.
Part of that's age and speed, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I think also, I mean, they're almost the same age, you get 1 year difference. But yeah, Tyreek Hill is a lot faster. But they also had to pay him more. It's one of those things that, like, it also depends on the team. But Tyreek didn't
Yeah.
have a specific destination. That's a little different because Tyreek let the team kind of get as much as they could back. So he didn't really have too much say in it. But Devontae Adams, all he wanted was Vegas. And he basically said, I will not play for anybody besides Vegas. So you're not going to trade for a guy that won't want to play for you because he has to sign a contract to play for you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. No, makes sense. Again, I don't know if that's the smartest idea, but
Right.
Devontae Adams wanted it. So
Right. And I'm not going to say, I don't think it was better. I don't think Derek Carr is better than Aaron Rodgers, but I do think personally I would rather be in Vegas than in Green Bay in many ways. But
yeah.
next, moving on from that, we have Jimmy Garoppolo rumors. I feel like, well, actually, we might as well talk about Baker Mayfield rumors first, since we were just talking about the Browns.
Sure.
So Baker Mayfield, I've been hearing the Seahawks more than anything, and like we talked about before, it sounds like Seahawks are bust. Baker probably won't go anywhere besides Seattle, and it's likely he is traded for like a 6th-round pick or is probably cut.
So
Depending.
I heard a rumor this morning actually that if he is cut, Pittsburgh would be interested.
I mean, I could see that. My only problem with that
But
is
only if he's cut.
right. The only problem I have with that is they just signed Mitchell Trubisky. And I don't really know how much different they are, other than the fact that Trubisky didn't play last year. And he's more athletic.
I mean, I think the plan with Trubisky and the Steelers anyway was going to be always draft a quarterback and have the two compete for the certain gig, because like Trubisky, if you look at the numbers they signed for, they're not starting quarterback numbers.
No.
They're just a little below it. So like I don't think Trubisky is the main guy per se. So like if Baker does become a free agent, or Jimmy Garoppolo for that reason, like I could see the Steelers be like, well, we don't need to trade up now, and let's just get one of these two guys. They kind of fall in our laps. So like I could see it. I think the rookie quarterback might be a little bit better, but again, both of these guys don't really have options.
Right.
As now. So
well, I would say personally right now, if I had to guess, I think Baker does get traded for like a 6 to Seattle, if that is the case. Because I don't know if Seattle is really okay with running with Drew Lock. I feel like Baker's a pretty big upgrade over Drew Lock. Personally,
I mean, sure, but like, would you rather have Baker for how many years he has, and plus like whatever his extension is? I don't know how much he's getting paid. Or would you rather have Kenny Pickett at 9 and like go with the rookie for 5 years?
Well, I mean, I guess that's if they get Kenny Pickett. And that's the thing. I mean, Baker's only on a 1 year deal. He's on a 1 year, $18 million deal. So even if you do get Kenny Pickett, you then have three good quarterbacks. And I mean, you could potentially trade somebody away if somebody gets injured or something happens, or you just cut somebody. But I mean, if you're talking about a 6 round pick, I'd do that just in case you don't get a guy like Pickett.
That's true. Yeah, that's under the circumstance that Seattle has the opportunity to pick it. But yeah, I thought Baker should sign an extension. Did he not?
No,
No? Okay.
no, he's on his
Then
5th year deal.
he's on his 50 year. Okay. Um, then yeah, I guess if you get a 6 round pick, I mean, there's no harm in it.
Yeah.
So
And then speaking of Jimmy G, Jimmy Garoppolo is another quarterback that's likely to be moved. I'm not sure. I don't know where. I personally think it's going to be Carolina as of right now. But what I think is going to happen is most of these teams are going to go through the entire first round, right? See if they can get a quarterback. If they can't get one, maybe Pittsburgh or Carolina, or even probably not Seattle, because San Francisco wouldn't trade him there. But they're going to look and go, okay, we got no quarterback in the first round. Let's trade this 2nd round pick for Jimmy G, and then we'll be set up for at least this year. But I don't really see him moved other than that.
so wired. I don't know. I feel like the 49ers messed this Jimmy Garoppolo thing up so much. I
Yeah.
feel like last year was the perfect year to trade him. I know that New Orleans, for example, like offered them the 1st round pick last year,
Yeah.
and they declined it. So I don't know. It's really surprising to me that Jimmy Garoppolo, probably the first quarterback to hit the trade market, is still on the trade market.
Yeah. I think
So
that should tell you all you need to know personally.
I mean, that's debatable. I think Indianapolis made the wrong call, but
I don't think so,
okay.
man. I really don't. I think, and this is the something, I think Matt Ryan is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo, man. He's way better.
I
He just
mean,
is.
I think there's a debate for that, but I also think that Matt Ryan is a better acquisition for them because they're not a team that has a lot of draft capital to begin with because of other trades that they made. And Atlanta, they need to make that deal like perfect for them. They need to eat
Yeah.
40 million just for them to stay in the same cap situation. And so to me, Indianapolis and Matt Ryan made perfect sense together just because
Right.
Atlanta made it possible. And kudos to Atlanta for giving a scout quarterback exactly what he wanted, a
That's
chance
true.
to compete and a chance to win. But needless to say, I think that if Jimmy Garoppolo was available for 3, I think Indianapolis pounces all over that. I think
Right.
that's the reason why he's not, is that he was with 2, and Indianapolis thought that was too rich. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like concerned for Jimmy, but I also think that like there's no really harm in keeping him, and then in case that Trey Lance stinks,
Yeah.
and that you need another backup quarterback to start in like an emergency situation.
Yeah, I agree there. I think I wouldn't be super surprised if the Niners just hold on to him at least for a couple games this year, just until Trey Lance is for sure the quarterback.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, if anybody screwed up, it was Washington. I think they just acted too desperate. They acted too quick. They traded for Carson Wentz they gave up a 2nd round pick.
Second and third, right?
It was a second, and then they swapped thirds, and then they gave him another third that can turn into a second or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact trade terms, but if that's the case, if you could have got Jimmy G for it too, you might as well have done that instead.
Yeah, I know that the Commanders really liked the Carson Wentz's size,
Yeah.
and so like again, 6'4" quarterbacks that are like built like trucks don't come often, so I get it. But yeah, he's just not consistent. I agree. I think
Yeah.
that they acted too hastily, but give Minneapolis all the credit in the world because
Yeah.
they pounced on it, right?
It was very
And
smart on
so
their part. They just kind of waited it out. They weren't going to force a quarterback, basically, is what it felt like. They were going to take at the end what they could get, kind of, as long as it was an upgrade over Carson. And I think they believe most of these guys were an upgrade over Carson, personally.
yeah. Yeah. And like again, I love the Matt Ryan deal. Can we talk about the Matt Ryan deal? Can
Oh,
we
yeah.
go? So like I love the Matt Ryan deal, but my only concern with Annapolis is that he's 36 and he's not a long-term answer. So
Yeah.
like that's why I would prefer like a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Baker Mayfield because they're much younger and
Mm-hmm.
they can compete with them. Whereas now, in my estimation, it kind of almost it makes sense for them to go quarterback in the second round with that
Yeah.
commander pick because they need someone to be a heir apparent to Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan's probably not going to last more than 1 year or two.
Yeah. I think he'll have 2 seasons in Indianapolis, personally, and then he'll be done.
Yeah, I think he finishes out that contract, which is 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but
Which
like,
I think you're right. I think they should look for a quarterback in probably this draft, and definitely next, if not this one. But I mean, we've seen crazier stuff happen where somebody could hit the free agency market, or something could happen where they find somebody that is a little bit younger and can kind of keep that going. Which we've
yeah,
seen the Colts do for the last couple of years. Actually, they've been that's a revolving door over their quarterback room.
yeah,
But speaking of young quarterbacks that could be traded for, Jordan Love. This is a guy that nobody's been talking about. It seems like nobody is like, where's Jordan Love getting traded? We haven't heard anything about this guy. Um, Personally, I think it's Seattle, Houston, or the New York Giants.
I hate that.
And I
I
feel
mean,
like, go ahead.
the only thing about the New York Giants is that was Love and Jones in the same draft,
Um, I don't
or
think
were
so.
they a year apart?
I think Jordan Love was 1 year after. I think he was
Okay,
2017 or 18.
so I
2020 for
think
Jordan Love.
Dable would I have. I feel like if Dable wants to move on from Daniel Jones, which might be the case because it's not his quarterback, then I think that someone like Jimmy Garoppolo would make all the sense in the world because he's coached Jimmy Garoppolo, so he knows a little bit more about him,
Right.
rather than start over once again with Jordan Love, who, I mean, I feel like he has the same attributes as Daniel Jones, but like
Yeah.
you don't know what you're gonna get, but he has all the potential in the world. Like
Right.
that's what we heard from Daniel Jones like the past couple of years, where well, he's good if put in the right situation, but
Right.
look at him now.
Yeah, we don't know too much about Love. And I think that's why we haven't heard too much about him, because maybe Green Bay just holds on to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I it's interesting. I have a lot of questions about Green Bay, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
think
how.
I get it. I think I like their process right now, personally.
I mean, I like the process, but like, here's my situation: is that as like someone needs to, on every team needs to deal with the salary cap, right? And like needs to look at future ahead and look at what players are going to become free agents and what players need to be resigned and whatnot. It's got to be someone to do that. My biggest question mark is that how in the heck did the Green Bay Packers go into this year with the top three wide receivers as free agents? That makes
Well,
no sense to me.
It's
Like, what happens if
because,
they had no money?
well, that's why, because they knew they would have some money and they knew they could franchise tag Devontae. And it's likely Alan Lazard and MVS are going to come back. Um,
Right.
which, I mean, like I said, I like the process because they traded Devontae for a first and a second. They'll
Yeah.
likely draft a receiver with at least one
Yep.
of those picks, if not both.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised personally. Um,
Okay.
which they still have their first round pick. So they got two firsts and a second. And I feel like they're right in that spot where Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he can kind of make anybody look good. I know Devontae Adams is great, don't get me wrong, but as long as you got guys that are competent, you will be okay, I think, at that receiver position with a great
True.
quarterback. And that's kind
True.
of the same thing that we saw in the Tyreek Hill trade. Kansas City said, look, we're not going to pay you $30 million a year. If you want that money, go elsewhere and get it. They let him seek his own trade. I mean, he went to Miami. And this is another thing. He didn't go, I'm going to Miami, so you have to take this trade. He wanted Miami. He wanted a couple other teams. But Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, is also located in Miami. So that makes a lot of sense from that standpoint. But they got a lot. They got a haul for him too.
Yeah.
So I mean, and he's also a year younger, like we talked about. But they gave up a little bit more than what Devontae Adams got. And I feel like personally, I like that for Kansas City too, because they have the elite quarterback. But not only that, they have a guy like Miko Hardman waiting in the wings. I mean, he's only 25 years old. He runs a 4.3. He's
Yeah.
not Tyreek Hill, but he's on that level of speed. And I think Patrick Mahomes could make him statistically look somewhat like Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
he's going to have the same stats, but he could be a 1,200 yard receiver with Mahomes as a wide receiver 1 or 2 in that offense. And then they're going to go ahead and draft another one with the pick that they got, because they got a first, a second, and a fourth this year. So they're right in that same boat with the process.
So like I really like what the Kansas City Chiefs did. In future regards, I think with Green Bay and Kansas City, I think that they're gonna take a little step back this year just because
Maybe.
Devontae Adams um and Tyreek Hill were a big part of that offense. Um and like a rookie just can't replace them.
Not
Like
fully, yeah.
not fully. So like I think they're gonna take a little step back. I think they're gonna be fine. Um, but then I think that it's gonna load them up for the future, especially in this Kansas City deal. Like Kansas City has
Yeah.
always been relatively good at drafting, and I think that like year 2, year 3, year like have I think it's 2023 is the latest pick, maybe 2024. Um, but they're going to be like all the way in and like able to probably prolong the window a couple more years
Right.
with this trade. Although I do think that they're probably going to take a little smidge step back this year.
See, I disagree because they did sign Juju. They have Miko Hardman, and they'll likely draft a receiver. And like I said, I'm not going to say that they're going to replace Tyreek Hill in terms of his star player, but they'll replace that production. And that's another thing that I feel like a lot of teams um, are going to have. Like, some teams feel one way about it and then other teams feel the other way. Either it's you pay your star guys that big money because you think that they're, worth it and that you need them to win, or you go, okay, we don't necessarily need this guy at this position. We can use two players to get his production and, give up half the money to those two players, and then you're still got money left over and you've got assets left over to make more stuff happen. And that's what I think is
Yeah,
both of these teams. I think if anything, they're better personally. And it depends on how they draft and who they draft and how they end up panning out, of course. But if they can draft well and these players play well, I think they're a little bit better, because now you're not forced to give it to Tyreek. You got Juju and Mecole and the rookie and Travis Kelce. And then in, Green Bay, they could have Lazard and MVS and, Tanyan re-signed. And
yeah,
they also, they could get a rookie. Either of these teams, think about it. Either of these teams draft a guy like Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, or Chris Olave. And we're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it though. I think that like wide receiver is the position that like
Yeah.
everyone is craving in this draft. And I feel like they have every position in this draft, that position group is going to be the most taken in the first round.
Yeah.
And so like the Packers might be able to draft some of the Raiders back because they are relatively high in that draft pick. But like, was it like the 29th pick that the
Yeah.
Chiefs got?
Kansas City got 29.
Like, I don't know if the wide receivers are going to be there, like the top
Right.
tier ones.
Yeah.
So because like we're talking about like Drake London, which great Packer wide receiver. If Drake London's there with the Packers, I would scoop him up right away.
Oh yeah.
The Patriots need a wide receiver. They're 21. I don't know what the Raiders pick is. But
I think it's like 24 because they lost first round.
Okay, so like the Packers need a wide receiver, Patriots need a wide receiver. Top 10 teams that I'm not thinking of right now.
Oh yeah, there's
Probably,
a lot of
like,
teams.
there's like a ton of teams.
Yeah.
And so like if you're going to get like a Garrett Wilson, you probably need to get a top 10 pick, and potentially they might be able to trade up for that. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they're guaranteed a wide receiver. Is what I'm
Well,
saying.
that's the thing though. I feel like there's a lot of wide receivers in this class that you can take end of the first or second round that can produce just as well. It's just they're not
Yeah.
on the radar as high right now because scouts aren't looking at them the same way. But that happens
Right.
every year. We get breakout receivers in the second, third round every single
For
year.
sure.
And I think too, with those elite quarterbacks, it's even more possible that you get a breakout wide receiver because they know how to use receivers and they know how to make guys feel comfortable and confident. So I think that really helps with both of those teams. But last but not least, our top two biggest signings around the league. I'll go ahead and start with the offense. We'll do back and forth. I'll say one, you say one. My number one offensive signing of the year was Teron Armstead to the Miami Dolphins for a 5-year, $75 million deal. The reason this is my number one is because they also traded for Tyreek Hill. If they didn't trade for Tyreek Hill, I don't know if I put this number one because I do love the deal. And I love the signing, and it was a pretty clear signing the whole time. It was either Miami or Cincinnati, in my opinion, for Teron Armstead. New Orleans had a little bit in there, but that's only if they got Watson. But him going to Miami is huge because not only are they protecting Tua, but then again, they go and get Tyreek Hill. So to me, that goes, okay, they went a little bit older with their free agent and their trade acquisition. Maybe Miami's trying to make a move now. They might be trying to see if Tua is not it this year, we need to move on and get somebody in here that can win now. Because you got a 32-year-old left tackle or 31-year-old left tackle and a 28-year-old receiver.
What is Armstead's contract? 5 years for what?
5 years, $75 million.
What does that equate to?
So 15 per.
15 per.
Yeah.
See, the only I don't know. Like, I like that signing. Don't get me wrong. I think offensive tackle, and that's like big. But like, to me, Lyle Collins was like number one tackle off the board. He went to Cincinnati. Then
you think he was better?
I think so, yeah. Just based off
Whoa,
age.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Based off age.
Hold on, timeout. I need a timeout.
Okay.
Let me catch this real quick. I want to make sure we have this on camera. You just said Lyle Collins is better than Teron Armstead.
Based off age.
Well, yeah, he's younger, but like better.
I don't necessarily think he's better.
Okay.
But I
was like, what?
I think he's more. I think that if you are a general manager, you're going to want Collins more.
Nope. Teron Armstead is a top 3 left tackle in the NFL.
I think that.
And you just got him for a bargain. I think they got him for a bargain. 15 million per is a bargain. He should have got like 18.
I think that he is the third best offensive tackle in this free agency class. I think Trent Brown is also better.
Bruh. No.
Which is why Armstead was the third tackle.
Who got paid the most?
Him.
All right then.
But that's what I'm saying is that
like he didn't leave.
That's what I'm
he
saying
wasn't
is
the
that,
last one because he was the worst. He was the last one because he was the best and had his pick of the litter.
See, I don't know. I would rather have Trent Brown for 11 million than Armstead for 15. But
puke. I'm sorry, that's a puke. I can't.
It's all good. It's all good.
Do it. That one was tough. That was
my
tough.
best agency pickup is actually DJ Shark.
I like it.
I like that pickup a lot. I think that, like I said earlier in the podcast, I think that he was the second best wide receiver on the market.
Oh yeah.
Behind, and I think it was better than Allen Robinson.
I agree with that too, because the age thing, in terms of, like you said before, a lot of these teams, Allen Robinson went to a good team, the Rams, and I think that worked out perfect for him. But if I'm a rebuilding team, I just am not really interested in Allen Robinson.
And if I think that he's young enough and he has that development to be a good wide receiver.
Right.
And I think that the Lions, for what they paid for, that's really good deal.
Oh yeah.
And it's up to you, the Lions, now to make sure that he resigns, and hopefully he does. But I think that's probably the best bargain deal of the draft, of the NFL free agency on the offensive side. I agree.
Honestly, once Christian Kirk's deal came out, I thought Shark was going to get something similar. Maybe not the same numbers, but around that 3-year, 5-year mark, with probably 12 to 15 million per. But he sounds like he bet on himself,
Yeah.
But and my number one defensive signing is Chandler Jones to the Las Vegas Raiders for 3 years, 51 million. He gets 17.5 million to go to the Raiders, and they also got Devontae Adams. So to me, the Raiders are gearing up, and that AFC West is wild. I personally think Chandler Jones is better than Von Miller. And you might call me crazy for it, but a lot of people would agree with me. I mean, just look at the stats. I mean, Chandler Jones blows him out of the water in terms of sacks and forced fumbles. And I mean, I love Von Miller. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say Chandler Jones is so much better. But I would rather take Chandler Jones on my team than Von Miller right now.
I love how you picked the older guys.
Yeah.
As the future bargains.
I think it's because it's more of, it's not necessarily the signing that is big to me. It's what it means for the teams, because to me, that means Las Vegas is gearing up. They went and got Adams. They're really trying to win now. They're going for it. And then, also Miami, they got Teron Armstead, their stud left tackle. They're trying to help Tua, but then they went and got Tyreek Hill too. They are straight up going for it. That's what I think I attributed these signings to, as it's big money wise, and it's big for the player, and big, in terms of the best players at their positions, but also big for the teams.
I think the Von Miller deal is probably the worst in the NFL free agency so far. But
I don't know if it's the worst. I don't love it because it's 6 years. It's not really 6 years. It's 3 years. It's basically exactly what Chandler Jones got, but it's fully guaranteed. That's the difference. Chandler's wasn't fully guaranteed.
Yeah, I just don't love paying older guys that type of money, 17.5 per for
guaranteed 30. Too.
Yeah, that's
even if he gets hurt, cut, anything, you can't trade him or cut him or anything without that money.
Yeah,
you paying him. It just wasn't smart to me.
My best defensive value is Reed to Kansas City, the safety.
I love that.
Justin Reed.
Yeah.
Just because he's gonna take over for Tyrann Mathieu probably.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to provide the same type of play. I think Justin Reed is a guy that's been undervalued in this league for quite some time, and that's mostly due to being in Houston. I don't think many people are watching Houston Texans games.
Yeah.
I think that Justin Reed is going to probably be considered one of like the better safeties, and for a reasonable deal too.
Oh yeah,
Like, so I love that deal for Kansas City
I
and the
agree.
player.
And honestly, Justin Reed, like, I don't think he's necessarily better than Marcus Williams, but I would rather have him for the money um,
Yeah,
than Marcus Williams because I think he's almost just as good, if not just as good right now. They're a little bit different style of player, but in terms of talent, I think Justin Reed is top 10, top 5 even safety. So I do really like that one. And that's all I got for this one. You got anything to add?
no. And I think that if this offseason is as crazy as it is now, I think it's just gonna get even more crazier.
Yeah.
So
We'll see
I
some
can't wait
wild
to see
stuff
it,
happen
the
draft night.
draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be some crazy stuff. I'm looking
Oh
forward
yeah.
to it.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, it's not too far away either. It's going to come up on us real quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we will have our draft prospect episode come out this Saturday with some more updates on trades and stuff. If anything happens, or if stuff doesn't happen, we'll have some more rumor updates. But that's going to be it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one. We appreciate you guys for watching.
Love
Appreciate
you
you for
guys.
coming, Tom. We'll
Yeah.
see you later.
See you.